Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another 2-inch charge. So, first things first, new microphone. So, let me know if the volume, sound, and everything else is fine. I tested out, should be a lot better, should be a lot louder, should be a lot clearer than previous live streams. So, let me know in the comments below if it is good. If not, I will tinker with the dials and give it a little bit of oomph. But yeah, welcome. We are going to be chatting tonight about dragons. Because, you know, dragons are apparently a problem in the old world. So we're going to have a little chat about that. We're going to have a little look at, are they really that bad? What makes them so bad? And I can only look at this from my end of being a player who collects Bretonnians, who doesn't actually have a dragon. But we still have access to a large monstrous creature, even though Games Workshop still haven't given us a model for it. But yeah, dragons. But we've got a couple of other bits and pieces first. So not related to the old world, but I've just started a new video series over on the channel called Zero to Hero. Part 1 is up on the channel right now if you want to check that out. And that is basically me going to be starting a brand new army for Age of Sigmar, learning it, building it, playing it, and taking it to tournament glory where I finish in a podium. The challenge is quite simple. I basically have to get a podium finish at some point during 4th edition with this army. I'm only allowed to play this army. And I made a poll and let you, my brilliant viewers and subscribers, choose on how I pick that faction. So originally I was going to just have any faction I wanted. But I figured, you know what, we'll make it fun and we'll limit it down to the factions that I've won, never collected before, and never played before. So that was chosen. So let me know if you've watched it and check that out. It's over on the channel right now, Zero to Hero. So yeah, there's going to be lots of cool stuff, and that challenge will be getting started properly tomorrow when I actually start going out and getting the first set of models for it. But also, we are going to be having a little look at the new article that's over on Warhammer Community, so we'll jump on that now and have a little look at what the High Elves are getting. And this is kind of relevant, obviously, because, you know, the High Elves, and it's kind of cool. But we'll have a little look. Why is that not working? See, absolute pro streamer me. Let's just jump onto that. That's not working. Why is this not working? There we go. So yeah, we've got the almanac, which is kind of cool. So obviously, this is relevant to kind of the conversation that we're going to have, because one of the armies with a really strong dragon is also getting another water dragon. So another dragon for a faction that already has multiple dragons. So yay. Cool. This is a really cool, actually, looking model, actually. It actually comes from the Warhammer Forge, which is really awesome, because that was a studio that was kind of created in Forge World, and they were kind of doing, like, sort of Forge World-themed kits and resin kits for Warhammer for Warhammer Fantasy Battle, in the same vein as what they were doing for 40k, with, like, so the Titans and the aircraft and the sort of really sort of bespoke type tanks. So this was that Forge World's answer for Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Obviously, Warhammer Fantasy Battle died, and you know, this was like one of those things that kind of disappeared. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's pretty big. It's a nice, obviously, Forge World resin kit. And it comes from the Warhammer Forge range, so hopefully there's a lot more of that, because there was some really, really cool stuff. I remember being at Games Day when this Warhammer Forge was initially shown off and announced, and you had, like, back in the day when Games Workshop allowed you to speak to the games designers and everything else, they had an area off where the Heavy Metal team and the Forge World team were, and they had the Warhammer Forge team. had their own little desk with their display cabinets, and some of the really cool stuff that was in there was pretty impressive. Like, I do remember seeing like this really big ass dragon, which was awesome. There was a couple of other really cool stuff. I think this thing was in there as well. So it was really, really impressive to see. And this was before it kind of sort of started releasing things. It was like, this is what we're going to be doing. And it was kind of sort of explaining that they were going to be bringing out like Warhammer Fantasy versions of Imperial armor books. These were all really cool things. Obviously, now that, you know, we can look back at it and see that that never happened because Warhammer Fantasy Battle died and was discontinued and moved over to Age of Sigmar instead. But it's kind of cool. This model is pretty awesome. It is kind of nice. It has a couple of special rules. So it has the Abyssal Cloak. So it has any enemy model that targets this model during the shooting phase suffers -2 to hit. That's amazing for shooting at long range rather than the usual -1. That's really, really kind of cool. And whilst in base contact with this model, enemies suffer a -1 to their strength characteristic to a minimum of 1. So it's pretty defensive, to say the least. And then obviously, you know, it's basically a high elf. So it's going to be overpowered because high elves are really, really strong. So that's really kind of cool to see. But yeah, that's that. But yeah, dragons. So, dragons, are they a problem? Personally, for someone who doesn't collect dragons, and I don't, I'm a Bretonnian player, so, you know, I'm not going to have a dragon, ever. Now, we have hippogriffs. One day Games Workshop might actually give us a hippogriff miniature. That would be kind of cool. Rather than the big-ass giant, the big-ass one that we get from the Empire, which is not really something that I would like to want to collect. I would rather have an actual proper Bretonnian griffin. So we can kind of have like a semi-pseudo type dragon leveled monster, just not as good. I think what people find the problem with dragons is, one, they fly, which means they've got 360-degree arcs of flying around the board. They can pretty much go where they want, and land where they want, and generally just be a pain in the giant arse. And they've got incredibly high toughness. So a lot of the times you're going to be needing 5s and 6s to wound them. And then coupled on top of that, they've got a shitload of wounds. I think most of them have, 8 to 10 wounds. And then they're going to have a bucket load of attacks that really, really do a lot of damage. And then the stomp attacks. And that's even before we add in the rider on the top. So, and the rider on the top can obviously be a kind of high-level character. So he's going to have access to 100 points of magical items. So he's going to be hard as nails as well. You know, and he's going to be flying around like an absolute beat stick. But the reality is as well, that a lot of people seem to forget when they complain about dragons, is that the dragons themselves are probably going to be coming in a minimum of 500 points, and, you know, are going to be pushing out towards like 600-700 points by the time you finish tooling up your lord that's riding it and everything else as well. So yeah, they are pretty expensive, which is kind of what you expected. And there is various levels of draggingness in the game. Some factions have a really impressive scary dragon, where other factions not so much. So in all the games that I played of Old World so far, I have faced 2 dragons so far. The first time I played the Old World was with my Bretonnians against Tomb Kings, and my opponent brought a Bone Dragon. I had tooled up my Duke to basically be a monster slaying badass, and he basically flew over to said dragon, and I rolled out my attacks, and I rolled 2 6s for my rolling to wound, which ultimately kicked in the Dragon Slayer ability, or the Monster Slayer ability, and I killed said dragon. Now, bear in mind that my opponent still got his ward saves, and he failed a ward save, one of them. Dragon gone. See you later, adios. Now, that sounds pretty impressive, but the reality is that that Duke was pretty much over 400 points. So yeah. Now, my other game I played against a few weeks ago with my mate Dave, who plays High Elves, who's an incredibly good player, and has played High Elves for a long time. He rolled up with a big ass scary High Elf dragon with a High Elf Lord on it, and that model alone was basically unstoppable. I couldn't really stop it. I fluffed a lot of my rolls with my Monster Slayering Duke. Otherwise, I could have killed it. But yeah, that was kind of an issue. I would turn around and say that list that he brought was very, very good, but the dragon wasn't the major problem in that game. The actual major problem was the 20 Phoenix Guard with a mage casting a spell that essentially made them ethereal. So I couldn't really get in with the magic attacks. I did try a gamble later on in that game to basically charge with 2 units of knights. One of my knights had a damsel or a prophetess in it, granting magical attacks to the unit. And the whole point was I was either going to try to get my champion, my first knight, to kill the mage, the high elf mage in combat, or force the high elf mage to go to the rear and not accept the challenge and step to the rear of the rank, meaning that the ethereal turns off, and that means then my knights are going to be able to smash into them and do a lot of damage. Yeah, it wasn't a normal mage, it was like one of those battle mages, so my champion basically got absolutely mullered in combat before he could even pull his sword out the scabbard. And then it went all terribly wrong from that point. But yeah, the dragon in the game was scary, really scary, and I think for me, being on the receiving end of it and not being a dragon collector, a dragon player, because Bretonians don't have access to dragons, they are quite scary, and you kind of have to build into it to sort of try to counter them. Like, a couple of characters with swords with Monster Slayer in there, even like, a knight or a paladin mounted on a bard, on a warhorse in the units of knights. My Duke flying around as basically a monster slaying, Pegasus riding badass could have potentially been a lot better. But ultimately, you kind of have to. The problem with dragons is they have to be dealt with. You can't ignore them because they're going to come for you regardless of what you do. So you kind of have to have something in your arsenal to deal with a dragon, because they're really good, they're really strong, and a lot of people are going to take them if they have access to them. I mean, why would you not? The vast majority of the dragon models as well are amazeballs. Although I will say that I do think that Games Workshop are massively missing out on the fact that they haven't brought out a plastic dragon for Warhammer the Old World in regards to the Chaos Warriors. I think that would have been a huge opportunity to have an absolute amazing miniature, because I don't think there's actually an official model for one of them, is there? I know we have the Chaos Dragon from Forge World with the split heads, but I don't think there's an actual a mounted hero or anything on that model. I think it's just basically the dragon. But yeah, they're scary. Like, to be on the receiving end of them, they are incredibly scary. I mean, we'll have a little look. I mean, let's have a little look at the monsters. So, monsters wise, when it comes to the dragons, we have quite a few. Now, obviously the Warpfire Dragon, which is what I was actually thinking of, I mean, that's a nice model, but it doesn't actually have a mount. Now, could you get a something on the top of there potentially? Maybe that would be kind of cool, but maybe not. the Chimera, the Manticore, the Lord on a Manticore, that would be kind of cool. The Bone Dragon. I kind of feel sorry for the Bone Dragon in regards to the fact that it ain't very good. You know, I think out of all of the dragons that are in the game right now, the Bone Dragon, even though it is a very cool plastic kit, is probably the weakest of the dragons, I would say. It's not amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that model is all about the person that's riding it, be it the Lich Priest or the Tomb King, rather than the dragon itself. The dragon is kind of there to supplement them. Whereas if you're playing like things like High Elves or Warriors of Chaos, the dragon is very much an integral part of that unit. And it kind of sometimes feels like the hero is there more to buff the dragon rather than the dragon there to buff the hero, which is in this case what I think that is how that works. We have... That's it. So the High Elf Dragon obviously isn't out yet because it's not gone on pre-order yet. But yeah, there are a few. Now, obviously, Wood Elves are going to have dragons. And they've got characters that ride dragons. I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed that the twins are probably going to get re-released on the really cool, weird, serpentine type dragon. Although, in the sort of preview for the High Elves, we didn't see that dragon, which is kind of cool. And if no one knows what it is, it's like some of the early versions of the dragons. They were like wavy, like snake-like, and then they had the wings. The High Elf one was pretty cool. I think there was a Dark Elf one as well, and there was a Wood Elf one. But the Wood Elf one, you could have like a generic character Wood Elf riding it, or you got the two twins on it as well. And yeah, they were pretty cool, but like they were horrible models to build. So if they do bring those dragons back, I really hope they bring them back in resin and not metal, because I had great fun watching friends try to build them things, trying to pin it together and then green stuff all the gaps. It was just horrible. It's almost as bad as the metal wyvern for the orcs and goblins. Like, that model's horrible. But yeah, it was just... Yeah, building it was just a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. But dragons are a interesting... going to be... they are an interesting aspect to the hobby. And definitely sort of to the game. I mean, are dragons as bad as something as, say, a Necrosphinx for the Tomb Kings? Like, is a Necrosphinx just a solid choice as a dragon? I mean, it's got the decapitating strike, which can kind of one-shot something, just like what the dragons can do. Or is it because dragons are just big and scary with a lot of stackable rules? I mean, like, some of the builds you can do on your dragons is, like, as an example for a Chaos one, and I was just kind of tinkering around with my books. So you can have essentially a dragon with a Chaos dragon, with a Chaos Lord on a dragon. You can give him full plate armor, a shield, a lance, a crown of everlasting conquest, favor of the gods, a healing potion, brazen collar, mark of Nurgle, and an enchanted aura. So essentially this gives you a model that is basically toughness 6 with 10 wounds, a 3-up armor save, a 5-up ward save, a 5-up regeneration save. Opponents in combat have to reroll 6s to hit and have strikes last. And the model has a magic resistance -2 as well, which kind of is really good because it kind of, makes ethereal a bit of an issue. And it has like 11 attacks at weapon skill 6 to 7 and the stomps as well. So, that's kind of scary. Like, really is scary. Now, granted, something along those lines is probably going to come in at well over 600 points, and that's kind of scary. You know, it's a lot of eggs in one basket, but a dwarf gun line, an empire, a couple of empire cannons, with a couple of direct hits onto that dragon will cause a lot of damage and eventually take it down. So, you know, there is always that. The high elves, I would say, are probably the sort of peak of dragonness in the old world. I mean, any faction that is going to run dragons is probably going to be a high elf player, because they have access to probably, I would say, one of the best dragons in the game. You know, you can get basically a son of Kalador, to have like a dragon prince with a 2-up armor save, a 5-up ward, a 5-up regen. You can have it with the dragon helm, talisman of protection, seed of rebirth. You know, you can have an absolute beat stick when it comes to it. And if you don't really want an out-and-out fighty dragon with a lord on it, you can take a dragon mage and have a slightly lesser dragon, but still with a lot more potency on magic, and then start using a lot of your self-casting, your buffing magic to really sort of buff that model to high end, and just generally just be a proverbial pain in the arse, and save on points as well, because obviously, as we know, high elves are an actual quite an expensive army to do. But yeah, I think dragons are fun. I don't necessarily say that they're a big issue massively. I think there are definitely ways of dealing with them. I know as a Plutonian player, I am looking at getting another Pegasus, and having like a Paladin on a Pegasus, or a Baron, more than likely a Paladin on a Pegasus, and just having another one of them flying around, and having that tooled up to be specifically for hunting and killing monsters. That's all that model's going to be used for. And then allowing my Duke to be a little bit less sort of focused on killing monsters, and be kind of focused on killing enemy heroes and units alike. I think that's kind of a good way of doing it. You know, you could always bring Cecil, who is a really, really good character for killing dragons, because he's like 165 points, and he's just built for killing monsters and large monstrous creatures like dragons. You know, you can breathe fire on him, he cares not. He just doesn't care. He has a really big axe that's really good at killing dragons. So, you know, there are characters out there that are really good. If you are a dwarf player, Slayers for the win. You know, throw a couple of Dragon Slayers, or even a unit of Troll Slayers at a dragon. You're going to do a lot of damage, and you're probably going to take it out. And you know what? If you lose a load of Slayers in the process, who cares? That's what Slayers are meant to be for. They're meant to be die in combat in a worthy death, especially trying to kill a dragon. That's just, you know, what they're for. But yeah, there is also another interesting subject that's kind of popped up, and I am going to want to watch the video by the content creator, a guy by Richie, over on his channel. I'm gonna check his video out, talking about sort of like, has the Welsh Open fixed, has fixed the Warhammer the Old World. And he's over at a ToW After Dark. Pretty cool channel and pretty cool guy. And it's going to be an interesting topic to look at. Now, my initial worry is tournaments going to fix the Old World? I don't think the Old World is a game system that should relatively rely on events to fix it. Very much like the Horus Heresy has tournaments, and their armies are not really like full-blown pure filth. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of filth, but there's a narrative aspect to all of the armies, and that may be just a product of the Horus Heresy community as a whole, that they kind of can step into a competitive event but still bring that narrative aspect, that theme running through the army, to kind of still stay true to the setting that they're playing in. And I kind of feel as though that's where the old world needs to be moving, rather than let's move into more of the competitive mindset, which is kind of what 40k and Age of Sigmar has become. And I think like 40k especially, and Age of Sigmar is, they aren't narrative games anymore. They are basically competitive games designed for competitive players, and match play games with that sort of chapter approved General's Handbook. And I know a lot of people who are not comp players will say that they don't have to use the pitch battles, or they don't have to use the match play rules, or the General's Handbook, or the chapter approved, or anything like that. But it's pretty much that regardless of how a casual player base reacts to any changes done at a competitive level, those changes at a competitive level will filter and roll through into the more casual player base, and that's just how it works. As a prime example, when Age of Sigmar come out, there was no points, there was nothing. There was just the kind of like bring what you want type mentality. And yes, we did kind of try to balance it internally ourselves as a player base. And that was mainly so we could have better, more fun, balanced games. When the General's Handbook turned up, the General's Handbook kind of brought in points. It brought in sort of army construction. You had a force organization chart per se. And it instantly changed the game. The mentality was, for players like myself who really enjoyed that first year, I was not a big fan of that General's Handbook when it came out. I was a bit like, this is going to change how the game is essentially been for the last year. And I was right, it did. You could be anti-competitive, never go to a tournament, but I guarantee you that when you meet your friends on a Thursday, Friday night to play your games of AOS, you are there building your army in line with that General's Handbook. You are playing games based in and around the match play system, and that is how you're doing it. And it's the same with 40k. If you look at anybody playing 40k casually, they are playing the prior Nexus deck of cards. They are playing prior Nexus missions. They are running prior Nexus scenarios and rules and everything else. And maybe it's just because there's a lack of GW supporting like the narrative aspect of the game. And let's be completely fair, nobody plays Combat Patrol and nobody plays Spearhead, and things like Crusade and Path to Glory because they suck donkey dick. The vast majority of people are playing regular match play games. And that's generally just my observation at my local club. I'm pretty sure a lot of people could probably look at the same and go, yep, it's pretty much how it is at mine. You'll probably have the outliers of players that just play the narrative missions, but that's generally it. The problem with going to competitive all the time is you kind of lose the element of the narrative and the story, which I think is more prevalent in the old world and the Horus Heresy than it is in their sort of modern mainstay counterparts in 40k and AOS. And I think that would be a shame. I think there's a lot more element for story and narrative driven elements in the old world than AOS, because you are able to build your own heroes. And I think this is one of the biggest things that 40k and AOS miss and lack, is in the Horus Heresy, I can take a generic Praetor model, I can get his unit profile, I can add the unit and the war gear that I want that character to take, and I can build a story around that character to how I see fit. Alright? Same in the old world. I can have my Duke or my Baron, and I can have that narrative and the build that I want around that character, and build that character to what the idea and the concept that I have in my head. Where in 40k in Age of Sigmar, you can't. You get a few choices in 40k, but in AOS you get far less. So as an example, if I have a Space Marine captain in 40k for my Blood Angels, I am going to have maybe 2 or 3 options. He's either going to have a Power Fist. Now bear in mind, this will depend on how I equip him with his mode of transport. So if I look at my Blood Angels, he could be a Death Company captain, then I would use that profile. He could be a Jump Pack captain, then I would use that profile. Or he would be a generic captain on foot, and he would then be that profile. So I'm instantly sort of pigeonholed into this. And then pretty much they all have roughly the same amount of loadout. I can have a Thunderhammer and a certain pistol, or I can have a shield and a Thunderhammer, or I can have a Power Fist and a pistol, or I can have a Relic Blade and a pistol, and maybe I might, in some of the builds, be able to have a bolt rifle as well as a pistol and a sword. And that's generally the limit of what I've got. I can't do anything else out of there. I can't come up with a cool idea of converting a miniature, only to turn around and go, well, I can't really do that because I can't use that loadout for the weapons. Whereas Horus Heresy, I 100% can throw a shield, a boarding shield or a combat shield, onto my Praetor with a Paragon Blade or a Thunderhammer or a Power Fist. And I can have various different types of weapons as well. And I can have that theme around it as well if I really want to. Whereas in 40k I can't. And the beauty of the old world is you can do that as well. And obviously, you know, you can also throw that person onto a dragon if your army has access to them to make them even more punchier and better. And I think that's a big thing that's for me more appealing for the old world and the Horus Heresy rather than sort of the sort of character creation aspect of AOS and 40k, because I just don't think there is there. Like, I am super pumped and excited for the Emperor's Children coming out very, very soon. And that kit for their Lord has 3 different versions. But I know fine well that those 3 different versions are literally going to be the 3 different profile versions that I can have. I'm either going to be able to have it with the spear and a pistol, the sword and the pistol, or that pistol's going to be out for a Sonic Shrieker. And that's pretty much how I'm going to be limited to what I can do, which is a real shame, because characters and lords and warband leaders from the Emperor's Children and any of the Chaos factions, to be fair, should have a wide range of options. And I think one of the biggest issues with 40k and Age of Sigmar right now is the lack of options when it comes to your character. And I think that's why you don't have that narrative element to the game anymore. Because when you build your army, you're not really building it around a cool character. You're like, I'm going to bring this named character because that named character will probably have a better loadout of weapons and a better selection of rules on its profile than the generic version that is very limited to what options it has. Where in the old world, hey, that's a Duke, I'm going to pay 165 points for it. Let's throw in 100 points of magic items. Let's throw him on a hippogriff for the lols. Let me give him a virtue because I can. Oh wow, what's that? This model's now 450 points. Brilliant. You know, awesome sauce. And I think that's the fun aspect of the old world when it comes to AOS and the Horus Heresy and 40k, is you've got those sort of building blocks to create really cool things. But yeah. But what's everyone else doing? How are they finding dragons? How are you, all finding dragons? Are you having issues with them? Like, what's the crack? Are you having problems with dragons? Are you know, not playing games because you're probably going to run into them? Are you collecting an army with dragons? Like, what's the bobbing more there? How is that working out for you? But yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Zero to Hero. I'm super pumped for this challenge. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it's going to be quite interesting, and like looking at the AOS sort of Skaven range, which is kind of interesting in itself. I'm just going to point out that this spearhead box is insanely good. Like, that's really, really good. You get 3 Storm Fiends. So my idea is probably to get at least 2 of these. And because one, I'll get 6 Storm Fiends as a unit, which is what I can run, and kind of you would want to run. Clan Rats are a interesting unit because they're bonkers. And they've got some really interesting rules. All right, okay, they're going to die to a stiff breeze, but, you can essentially bring a unit of 40 of them, which is really, really interesting. You get a Grey Seer, and I kind of like that Grey Seer because I can do a little bit of OSL on him. I do have the other one somewhere. I don't know where he is. I do have the other one from the launch box, the Skaven Vermintide box. Skaventide box. And I will be sort of popping him off the display base and putting him back on a normal base, and then using him because he's a really lovely model. And then obviously you get a warp lightning cannon, because what's more Skaven-y than a crazy gun that is potentially going to cause more damage to yourself than the enemy? That sounds awesome. So yeah, 2 of these boxes will pretty much be a really good basis to starting the Skaven army. So that's kind of cool. I like the idea of the storm vermin. I kind of like the Grey Seer in this. Now, some really cool aspects to this model, like these little rats holding the warp stone. Like, I really would like to get a little bit of OSL in this, and you can kind of make the model look really, really good. So you can get a nice glow coming from that there, and from this as well. So yeah, I'm probably gonna, because I'm getting 2 of these boxes, I'll have this one and I'll have a spare one. The spare one I'll probably use to do a little bit of practicing with that OSL effect. And then I'll have one for my army, because I'll end up having 2 Grey Seer models because I've got one on my desk here. Clan Rats, absolutely amazing. And then you got these chunky boys. Now these are really, really interesting unit, because from what I've read of them, you can either equip them being close combat units, which is kind of scary. They're essentially Skaven Terminators. Or you can make them into a shooter unit. I think you can have 2 of them as shooting guys and then 1 as close combat. They're not as oppressively, overpoweredly stupid as they used to be. I remember facing these guys at the end of 2nd edition, and they were horrible. But they're still kind of cool. So really, I'm definitely pumped about having a unit of 6 of these. That's definitely probably going to happen in the army. And that's the unit of 3 there. So you've got a lot of weird sort of stuff to them. Clan Rats are Clan Rats. Like, why would you not want Clan Rats? And then you've got this crazy thing. And one of the things I really want to do for this in regards to the channel is a tutorial on how to do really gnarly dirty, rotten looking wood. And I think this model is going to be a really good thing for that. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, this box is pretty cool. I think out of all of the battalion boxes I've seen, the spearhead boxes, this is actually quite good. Now, what else am I going to get to sort of complement it? Now, obviously, I'm going to need Narwhals and the endless spells. And then you've obviously got the Vermin Lords. Again, I'm probably going to have to, when I get the book, have to go through all of the different Vermin Lords to which one I'm going to use and which one I'm not going to use. But I'm sure like there'll be a certain one that stands out when I actually sort of have a look at that. The Screaming Bell and the Plague Furnace, this model is so awesome. Like, I love that. Like the amount of element of painting here on just that sort of the actual sort of big brazier type thing is really, really cool. The Plague Monks look really, really fun to paint. And again, the dirty sort of nasty looking wood. Now, you know, you're going to have that. You can have this version, which is the Doom Bell or whatever it's called, the Screaming Bell, and having the Grey Seer on the top and the Rat Ogre pulling it down. Again, a lot of fun aspects to paint, and it kind of gives you that little centerpiece. And it's kind of really cool now as well that they don't need to have a load of rats around them to make them move, so they can kind of just move around on their own, which is kind of cool. So yeah. So, you know, that's going to be something that I'm kind of looking forward to maybe having a look, seeing what they're like in and around the game. But my favourite unit that I'm really, really looking forward to getting is... I'm really looking forward to getting this guy. This is a seriously gorgeous model. Like, a seriously gorgeous model. Yeah, that model is going to be super fun to paint. I really do love that. Yeah, like, that's absolutely awesome. And then when you look at the actual Storm Vermin themselves, the unit as well, they look really, really, really cool. And this guy's not that bad actually. He does some pretty decent buffs to the rats around him. Obviously, Storm Vermin always like massively sold out. There is a big sort of debate between, you know, the Storm Vermin and the Clan Rats. I'd probably do a video on that once I've got my book, and we'll go, you know, into the sort of nuances between the Clan Rat and the Storm Vermin. I'm always going to be biased towards Storm Vermin. I've always liked Storm Vermin. I kind of, like in previous editions, I always wanted to do a Skaven army, but always didn't do them because Storm Vermin were not very good. But I'm just going to point out that champion has a pistol, a warp stone pistol. That is so fucking cool. Like, that is cool. It's literally like a little pistol that you would find on a pirate, but its magazine is just a piece of warp stone stuffed in the bottom of it. That is just so cool. Like, so cool. I love the armor on them. There's quite an oriental sort of theme to the Skaven, which I've always found, which is kind of cool. No idea on the colour scheme that I'm going to do yet, but yeah. But absolutely loving these guys. Yeah, these are beautiful, beautiful models. Absolutely beautiful. And that pistol, man, so cool. But yeah, a unit of 10 of them. I think they're really, really nice. And that's kind of, for me, the elite element of a Skaven army is Storm Vermin. So I'm really looking forward to them. Obviously, I can't do Skaven without this bad boy. I can't, you know, it would be rude of me not to get into Skaven and not get this model. You know, I have to have a centerpiece, and this, I think, is the ultimate centerpiece for your army. And he is absolutely awesome. Now, that is an insanely good model. That is a very bad photo by Games Workshop. That is really overexposed. But that is a really beautiful model. So yeah, that is going to be cool. I'm going to have a lot of fun painting that. That's going to be pretty awesome. So yeah, the Prophet of the Horned Rat. Kind of makes you wonder what he was like before he got turned into that. Which is kind of cool. I'll be interested to read the lore as well. Are they going to actually explain where the Skaven come from? I think I have this model in my bits box. I'm going to paint that up. I think I have that model. It's kind of cool. But there's a wealth of characters in here, which is so cool. Like the Doom Wheels, kind of weird. I mean, like Thanquil. Like that's. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Gotrek and Felix. I mean, I've only just started reading the Gotrek and Felix series again from the beginning, and I'm literally on book 1. And I know that like Skaven Slayer is coming in the very near future, and I'm going to get to read about my boy Thanquil, who, for me, kind of steals that book and becomes the star of it because he's just so funny. Like, he is the proper, typical mustache bad guy, and who is kind of comical and cartoony in the way he does it. You know, all you need is for someone to capture him and pull off his Skaven mask to reveal that, you know, he's some weird noble with a weirdness. But he is like the ultimate bad guy, but he isn't. And he is massively incompetent, but has more plot armor than anything else. And spends more time in the book sort of screwing over all other Skaven lords and leaders to sort of get one up all the time. And then, you know, in the end times, Bone Ripper, who was just a normal rat ogre, turned into this monstrosity. It's just so cool. I mean, the fact that you just get a different head option for him is just mental. Why do you get the options? "21 rats for you to decorate the base with." That's crazy. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting this guy. Definitely going to be getting Thanquil. Because he is such an iconic character for Skaven. Like, it's just so cool. This is my boy. And Bone Ripper, you know, they just kind of jacked him up to the 10th degree. Which is kind of awesome. But yeah, some really cool stuff. But I mean, rat ogres, you're going to want some rat ogres. I don't know what this thing is. I know this is one of the newer models. I have no idea what this is or what it does. I kind of just feel that it's like a really, really messed up version of a rat ogre. Like, full on messed up that it has another Skaven coming out the side of it covered in knives. Like this is proper clan molder, absolute messed upness. Like, that is just fucked up. Big ass blades. Like, yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. That's just nuts. It's like your worst nightmare of seeing a rat ogre, but then seeing that thing instead. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they're like or how good they are in game. Rat ogres look cool. Yeah, I'll probably grab this guy because essentially he is he is basically a storm vermin on a mount. You know, give storm vermin cavalry is what I want. Storm vermin riding giant mutated rats. But again, he's a pretty cool looking model. Quite like that. Quite like that a lot. Interesting sprue. But yeah, he's a pretty cool looking model. Really gnarly looking monster that he's riding. I think there's going to be a lot of fun painting elements in this army. I mean, that's the old Claw Lord. Like, here's the old Fantasy Battle one. Not amazing. And not the best one. I mean, there was one sort of like on a rock, I believe. That was really cool. Or that could have been the Underworlds one. Or a Mordine one. I'm not too sure. Jazales, really cool. Weapon batteries, really cool. Warp grinder, really cool. I am so having some Acolyte Global Days. I have just unlocked these in my Skaven army on Warhammer Total War 3. And I have like 3 units in my main army of them. And they are amazing. I love them so much. So I am definitely going to be getting a couple of units of these. Because, again, the painting element of this is I can have a lot of fun painting these guys. As I think they are absolutely, seriously messed up. And, you know, these balls, the gas masks, I think the element of OSL that you can do on them is just going to be so cool. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting them. I really do hope they're actually half decent in the game and they don't suck, because they're really, really nice models. So if anyone is a Skaven player, you let me know. Doom Flayers, I don't know what they do, but it's basically a rat riding a hamster wheel. Is this basically the Skaven's answer to cavalry? Is that Skaven cavalry? Because if so, I'm all for that. That for me, that sounds really good, awesome. But the Doom Wheel, I'm not 100% sure on this model compared to the previous renditions of it. This looks a little bit weird. Then I just did literally notice the rat right in the middle of it. That's okay, kind of messed up. But yeah, again, I'll have to check that out. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff. So I'm really excited for the Zero to Hero challenge. If you haven't yet watched that video, please, you know, head over and give it a watch and give it a like and all that kind of stuff. Because I think it's going to be a very, very fun challenge to do. It's going to be an interesting thing. Like, in the video I explained like all the factions I've never collected and stuff, and there's surprisingly not many. And it's kind of, when I was sort of looking at it and sort of researching it before I recorded the video, I was shocked at the amount of armies over the years, over the editions that I've collected for Age of Sigmar, and I've pretty much done all of them at this stage. And it's like, wow, that is so bad. So bad. So, yeah, I think that needs to stop. I need to have one army, collect that one army, play that one army, and this is the edition I'm going to do it. And I can, you know, put my hobby Tourette's into other things. But, yeah. But I'm going to call it there. So thank you very much to everyone who watched. You know, on the likes and stuff like that. Cheers, thank you very much. All of the support means so much. The channel is going really, really well. We are closing in on 3,800 subscribers, which is amazing. I'm really going to try to get to 4,000 before my birthday next month. So if you have yet to subscribe, it would be really good if you could. I really would like to hit the 4,000 mark before the sort of the end of March pit time for my birthday. It would be really, really awesome. TikTok is doing really well. I'm actually loving the engagement over there and doing a lot of really cool videos for it. There is currently, right now, a painting tutorial being recorded for this Paladin on foot. Which I said I was going to do a year ago when the Old World came out, but was never able to get hold of that model. So that is being done right now. I just need to finish it off and get it edited. So I'm going to hopefully try to get it up this week. And then if not, it'll be up next week at the latest. After that, I am going to be doing a video, probably an AOS painting video on the Skaven. I have a video planned for the Horus Heresy Sons of Horus. I have another video for painting white power armor. So there's quite a few tutorials that are planned and in the works. I've got the Howling Griffins one. I literally just need to film the last part of it and finish the model off so I can then film that last part. And then I will be jumping into that tutorial. So there's going to be quite a few painting tutorials coming up. If there's any sort of small like tutorials that you want to see, let me know in the comments. I mean, like, I think one of my most popular tutorials right now is my Dirty Steel Armor one that I did a few years ago on a Stormcast Eternal. So I might do another one of them, but for gold armor this time, rather than for steel, because obviously gold is quite a popular color on Stormcast Eternals. So I'll probably do one of them as well. And I'll be doing one for like painting Warpstone, OSL, and there's going to be a lot of videos on the Emperor's Children when that box comes out. A lot of videos. So, you know, get ready for that. I really can't wait to do the getting my hands on the Emperor's Children. It's going to be super, super cool. I hope you enjoy pink, because there's a lot of pink coming. In regards to when I think that's coming out, now I had this chat with another day with in a Facebook group regarding it, about when it's coming. I think this weekend we will get the announcement that the High Elves, or at least Wave 1 of the High Elves, are going to go on pre-order. So this Sunday announcement for pre-orders should probably be the High Elves. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see maybe another High Elf article this week. But it seems that we've had Age of Sigmar, which was the Gits. We had 40k directly after that. I think we're going to get the Old World, and then we'll probably get 40k, which will be the army box for the Emperor's Children. Because you got to remember, the only thing that's coming out for the Emperor's Children is that army box. The Soulblight Gravelords, there's an army box, and then there is some other stuff, some other new units and stuff. So I think what we'll get is that army box will come not long after that, because then you'll get the full release of the Gloomspite Gits. And as far as I'm aware, the Gloomspite Gits it's only just that army box. The Eldar have just been released. The Gloomspite Gits have just got the army box, and that is due to land on the 15th, right? So I think this weekend so that launch date is the 15th, so it's like a 2-week pre-order window. So I think that'll be the same. I think what you'll get is the guard stuff will go on sale next week, and the Eldari is up on pre-order, but that comes out next week. It's only a week pre-order, so I think the guard will be a week. So everything that goes on pre-order this weekend for the guard will be out next week. And that means that you'll have the army box for the Gloomspite Gits and the guard all coming out in one weekend. And then that weekend you'll also get the pre-orders for the High Elves. And I think the High Elves will probably be either a week long or 2 weeks. And I think it'll be just like they did with the Empire. It'll be the main bulk come out, then there'll be a gap, something else, and then the main order will probably be a week or so after. And then in that sort of gap between the two, the Empress Children will drop in. And I think the Empress Children will be a 2-week pre-order as well. So I'm fully expecting the Empress Children to go on pre-order on in and around the sort of the 22nd, and will not get them until the 8th of March is what I'm expecting. All right, that's pretty much how I'm expecting that to roll out. If they get announced this weekend, then which is that'll be a 2-week window. Then you'll probably be that they'll go on pre-order on the 15th, and then you'll probably not get them until the 1st of March. So either way, I know a lot of people are like rumours saying that they're not coming out until March. I think the pre-order window, with the fact that it's going to be a 2-week window for it, is probably looking at them going on pre-order on the 15th or the 22nd, which is great. Can't wait for it. So yeah, it's going to be super cool. So super excited. You know, birthday's next month as well. But yeah, it's all good. But that's the stream. Thank you everybody for jumping in and listening to me ramble on for over an hour. And yeah, like, subscribe, share, comment, do all of that stuff, ring the bell, all that kind of crazy stuff. If you want to support me in other ways, you can with Patreon and membership. You don't have to, I don't need it, but if you want to, you can. Everything that I make from the channel anyway comes back into the channel, hence the reason why this was just purchased, a new microphone, come back off the money that views and stuff from ad revenue from the channel. So it's all good. You know, I've said before, I don't do this as a full-time job. So I have a full-time job. So I do this as sharing my passion for Warhammer and the hobby in general. So, but I will catch you all next week. I will let you know what next week's subject is going to be on. Probably depending on what happens in the world of Warhams over the next week will probably dictate that. But we might move away from the old world and maybe move into something like the Horus Heresy for next week. But you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what topics come to mind when it comes up to it. We might even do an entire night talking about Skaven for the Age of Sigmar, and I might just do a live stream talking about the book and everything else. But we'll have a little chat about that next week anyway. But I'll be back around about 7:30 Tuesday night. So yeah, I'll see you all there and catch you later, everybody. Goodbye for